right, welcome to Finger Lakes Learning Launchpad. Today we're going to learn how to make udon noodles. So, udon noodles, they are a flour-based noodle from Japan. Ta-da! In Japan, there's one particular place that is famous for udon noodles. It's called Kagawa. Kagawa is a prefecture, kind of like a state in Japan. You can see it here in green. So there are so many ways to eat udon. Today we're going to make the plain noodles that you can use in a variety of different recipes. So how can we eat udon? Well, you can eat it with an egg and some green onions. How about with some fried shrimp? Or in a soup with toppings. With curry. This is one of my favorite ways to eat it. In summer, it is delicious and refreshing, served cold, and you dip it in the sauce. Or fried noodles are a tasty treat too. So, how do we make udon? Well, we're going to be going through it step by step together, but let's go over the recipe first. So, the ingredients are very simple. You need flour, water, salt, and a little bit of cornstarch. Today we're going to practice using a kitchen scale to weigh the flour. If you don't have a kitchen scale at home though, that's okay. It's about 1 2/3 cups of flour. We'll also be measuring the water in milliliters, but if you don't have a milliliter measure on your measuring cup, it's about 6 tablespoons of water as well. And 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt will go in the noodles as well. Now today, we're going to make special pink-dyed noodles using beets. So instead of the water, we're going to substitute it with beet juice. And the beet juice is made by boiling 1 beet thinly sliced in 1 cup of water. So let's go through the steps. First, you're going to measure the flour. Then, separately, you'll mix the water and salt together, or with the pink noodles, the beet juice and salt. Then you gradually add the salted water to the flour to form a ball using your hands. Then we'll let the ball rest for 20 minutes inside of a gallon Ziploc bag. Then the fun part, we're going to flatten it out using our feet. So the ball will be in the Ziploc bag, so don't worry, it will be nice and clean inside. But this is the fun part. Traditionally in Japan, they make udon noodles using their feet too. And they've been doing this for hundreds of years. It'll be a lot of fun. And then you're going to roll it into a ball again. Now we're going to repeat this for a total of 3 times. Rolling it into a ball, flattening it with our feet. Rolling it into a ball, flattening it with our feet. Then after the 3rd time, we're going to put it back in the bag as a ball and let it rest for 2 hours. Then we're going to dust the cutting board with cornstarch to get ready to cut our noodles. Roll out the dough to 1/8 inch thick. And then fold the dough like an accordion. This will make it so it's easier to cut it in one cut rather than cutting a long line. It'll make it so that our noodles are about the same width throughout. Then we're going to cut them thinly. And to cook the noodles, you cook them for 10 to 12 minutes in boiling water, stirring frequently so they don't stick together. Then you'll drain and rinse them with cold water to get all of that starch off. You can also freeze it and then put the frozen noodles directly in boiling water. A little bit longer, 13 to 15 minutes. So, are you ready to get started? Let's go to the kitchen.
Okay, to make the pink udon noodles, we are going to be using a beet for some natural dye. So you need 1 beet, you need a knife to cut the beet, a peeler to peel the beet, a cutting board to cut on, a small saucepan, and 1 cup of water. And this is going to make the beet juice that we're going to use in place of the water in the udon recipe. Alright, so the first step is to peel the beet. Now I've already washed my beet, so if you haven't washed yours yet, wash it first. And then you're just going to peel it
All right, so the beet has been peeled, and now what we're going to do is we're going to cut it into thin slices. So first I'm going to take off the end bit, and then I'm going to cut it into thin slices. Ooh, look at that gorgeous color. So nice and bright red. All right, so we're going to put these in our saucepan. So just add the beets into your saucepan, and then you're going to pour in 1 cup of water. Ooh, you can see the color coming out into the water already. All right, let's go to the stove. Okay, so we put our pot on the stove. Now we're just going to turn on the heat, and we're going to get it to a boil. So it's going to be on high or medium-high heat until you can get that boiling. So we'll come back in a minute once it comes to a boil. Alright, so we've got it to boiling. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just reduce the heat to a simmer. So that means it's not going to be as huge of the bubbles, it's just going to be tiny little bubbles that are coming up, not quite as vigorously. Alright, so we're just going to let this set until the water in there starts to reduce. So when there's less water, we're going to take it off and we're going to set it aside to cool for our noodles. Okay, at this point you could probably take the juice out, or you can leave it to concentrate the juice even more to have it have an even deeper color, but I would say this is probably a good amount right here. If you look at the juice in the pot, it's actually quite dark. You can see here on the spoon. So I would say this is probably good to go. Alright, so I'm just taking the beets out of the juice and I'm setting them aside because I could use them in another recipe for something. Or just season them and eat them as is. So we'll put the beets to the side, and then we're going to keep the juice in the saucepan to use in the noodle recipe. Okay, so from here we're going to need a couple things. So the basic ingredients for making udon noodles are just flour, salt, and water. Pretty simple, right? So other materials you're going to need a large mixing bowl, 2 kitchen towels, you're going to need a teaspoon measurement and a 1/4 teaspoon measurement. You're also going to need a gallon Ziploc bag and a wet measuring cup. Now today we're going to learn how to measure flour using a kitchen scale. So if you have a kitchen scale, please get it. If you don't, I will be including approximate equivalents, equal measurements in the description for that. So just check that out. And then later on, when we're going to be ready to make the noodle shape, we're going to need cornstarch, a rolling pin, and you're also going to need a sharp knife and a large cutting board. Okay, so we're going to learn how to use a kitchen scale. So if you've never used a kitchen scale before, this is a good way to measure flour because flour, when you pack it into a measuring cup, the actual amount of flour could vary because you could be packing it in there tighter or looser. So weighing the flour is a lot more accurate. So today we're going to measure by weight. So the first thing you have to do is on your scale, you're going to have to turn it on. Okay, so I'm going to put the flour into the bowl. So when you put the bowl on there, you can see it's weighing the bowl. We don't want to measure the bowl when we're measuring our flour, so we're going to push this button again where it says tare, and that's going to just clear it to 0. All right, so we need 200 grams of flour. Now right now it is on pounds and ounces, so I'm going to push this button. You can see G and OZ. That's grams and ounces. So right now it's on ounces. We want it at grams. So I'm just going to push that twice, and now it's at grams. So we're going to measure the flour until we get to 200 grams.
Okay, so let's measure out 200 grams. $201. Okay, we can take off a little bit. 200. All right. So you can see down here. Okay, so for the next step, we need to measure the water and the beet juice. Okay, and now we are going to add 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt to the water. Okay, there's 1 teaspoon and 1/4 teaspoon. And then you can mix it together. I'm just going to use my tablespoon, he's less dishes. So keep mixing until the salt is completely dissolved and you don't feel any more granules of salt in the mixture. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you are going to gradually add the beet water into the flour, and you're going to mix it around with your hands. So if there's still some dry flour left, then you can add a tiny bit of water. I'm using some extra beet juice just to give it a little bit more color. You want to make it into a nice, smooth ball. Alright, so now I have a nice ball of light pink dough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into the gallon Ziploc bag right in the middle. And I'm going to zip this up almost all the way and leave just a small opening here to get some air in. And what we're going to do is we are going to just let this rest for about 20 to 30 minutes, and what that's going to do is it's going to relax the gluten that is in the dough. Okay, we've waited 20 to 30 minutes, and now we're going to do the fun part. We are going to flatten the dough using our feet. Yes, feet. Let's do it. Okay, so first thing you need to put down a towel. And then you're going to put the bag with the dough in there next. And then you are going to put another towel over it. Okay, and what this is doing is if the bag does happen to break, it will still be on the towel. And then you just step on it. And there's still the hole in there, so the air should be coming out. You shouldn't be popping the bag. And just step and flatten it. So I'm going to keep it off so we can see the bag here, how it's flattening. Once you have it flat, we are going to take it out and we're going to form it into a ball again. Okay, so you take it from the bag and then you are going to just start folding it into a ball again. Now, I realized when I took mine out of the bag that it seemed to be a little bit wet. It was a little more sticky than I would like it. So I'm going to add just a tiny, tiny little bit of flour to it. So really, it should be kind of more like a Play-Doh consistency. It shouldn't be really sticking to the inside of the bag too much. It should be able to come off the inside pretty easily, which mine took a little bit of work to get it out of the bag, and it wasn't all in one sheet. But now, as you can see, it looks quite smooth compared to before. So I'm going to put it back in the bag now, and we're going to knead it with our feet again. so we're just going to make this into a ball again. And we're going to put it into the bag one last time and knead it one more time. Okay, so now we take it out and we form it into a ball again. Okay, and then we're going to put it back into our bag, and this time we're going to let it rest for 2 hours. Okay, so next thing you need to do is put some cornstarch on your cutting board or wherever you're going to roll out your dough, and you can just spread it around or sprinkle it. You're a little bit better at sprinkling than I am. All right, and then you're going to take your dough out of the bag, put it in the center there, and you're going to just flatten it out with your hands. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to dust the top with a little bit more cornstarch. Before I roll it out with the rolling pin. So you're going to roll it and try to get it into a square shape. And we're going to roll it out into about 1/8 inch thickness. And you can turn the dough to roll it out to size. Okay, so now if you don't have enough cornstarch on top, if it feels a little bit sticky, just sprinkle a tiny little bit more on top. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold the dough kind of like an accordion. So fold it. And this is where, if you don't have it in a square, you're going to get some noodles that are different sizes, but if this is your first time, don't worry too much. I haven't done this that much either, so I'm not perfect. All right, and then once you have it in an accordion shape, then you are just going to put a tiny little bit more cornstarch on top. Okay, and we're going to take the knife and we're going to cut the noodles into, again, about 3 millimeters or 1/8 inch thickness. So these ones at the end are going to be a little bit shorter. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to cut off, because mine wasn't a perfect square, and I'm going to use a cookie cutter later, and I'm going to cut this bit out with cookie cutters to make special shaped noodles. Alright, so now we're just going to cut the noodles very thinly. This is going to be the thickness of your noodle. And then you have your udon noodles. So they should unfold out into a nice long noodle shape. And what you're going to do with these noodles is you can cook them in a pot of boiling water, no salt because there's salt in the noodles here. Cook them for 10 to 12 minutes. If your noodles are more on the thinner side, cook them for less time, thicker side, more time. So you want to stir the noodles so that they don't stick to each other while you're cooking them, and then drain them and rinse them well with cold water to remove the starch from the surface of the noodles. And then you can use them in any soup recipe. You can even stir fry with them. There's lots of different ways that you can use some udon noodles, so I will be listing some ideas in the description of this video. You can also freeze the noodles in an airtight container or bag for up to a month, and they are better if you freeze them right away as opposed to refrigerating them. And then when you want to cook frozen noodles, just boil the frozen udon in a large pot of water for 12 to 13 minutes without defrosting it. So just throw it right in the pot. So these are some udon noodles that we colored light pink with beet juice. And you can also use the scraps here with cookie cutters to make your own different shaped noodles that you can add as accents in your soup. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.